Okay, so I'm not gonna lie, the story that I'm about to tell you seems really out of pocket from the title, but I can assure you it's a lot weirder than it seems. But let's just say I have to really be careful of where I shoot my nut, because you never know where it's gonna land and where it might go. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy but also super embarrassing story. Now, I'm recording this story super late at night. It is literally 11 at night, so you already know this story is about to be juicy. But it all starts off back in my high school years, and this was my grade 12 year, the year I was graduating. Now, graduating is a really big deal. A lot of people don't understand how big of a deal it actually is, but let's just say for anyone that is in school right now, make sure you guys graduate. It makes you a better person. It opens doors for a lot of bigger possibilities in the future, so you don't have to end up like me making videos about how you, well, I guess do the devil's tango. But anyways, enough about me. I remember one day I was walking down the school hallway and I was just hanging out with a couple of my buddies. Now, me and my buddies were all excited for graduation at this time because we were all ready to basically go, I guess, get into the real world. When in reality, we actually weren't ready, but still, it was, like I said, a big deal for us to graduate. And I remember one of my buddies, he ends up saying out loud, "Yo, guys, we gotta do something to be remembered. Like, seriously, it's gotta be something insane." Like, what is what I looked at him saying? And that's when he ended up saying the words, "We have to host a massive party. Like a party that's gonna go insane." You wanna host a party? Well, yeah, think about it. How else are we gonna be remembered? Like, obviously, it's gotta be through a party, right? Now, at this time, I'm not gonna lie, he wasn't the only person that year with this bright idea. Hosting a party was like kind of the way to get yourself into the cool kids club because I don't know, I guess if you have like your own party, it makes you like superior. I really don't understand the concept, to be honest, nor did I ever. And there's only one time where I hosted a party and I kind of regretted it. So since then, I haven't hosted one. So I already knew for a fact at this time, I was like, yo, I'm definitely not gonna host a party, but I mean, you can if you want. Okay, I'll host a party, but that means you have to invite all the girls. You want me to invite all the girls? Well, yeah, you're like the biggest player I know. I don't see a problem with that, do you? At this moment, he was right, because the amount of women I would go up and talk to every day at this time, and not even just that, the amount of sneaky links and just girls I had added on my own phone, let's just say I could end up just sending a mass text saying, hey, there's a party, show up. And a lot of girls would show up, not only to want to do the devil's tango with me, but just to show up at that party to have a good time. So at this moment, I remember I ended up saying, sure, I'll invite the girls, and another one of my buddies was in charge of the booze and all the other stuff that requires to have a fun party, which, by the way, I do not promote underage drinking. It is not cool and actually makes your brain a lot worse than average. Going on from there, I remember a couple days went by and I started telling people about the party. I started telling a bunch of different girls, and I started even telling the cheerleaders that were in my high school, except for one cheerleader that was really obsessed with me, ended up looking at me afterwards when I told her team, you know, there was gonna be a party happening. She walked up to me saying, "Wait, Bubba, are you gonna be there?" Yeah, I'll be driving down with my car later on at that night. Yeah. Okay, well, like, do you want to like pick me up? I promise I'll make you worth it. You'll make me worth it, is what I said, super confused on what in the world she was talking about. But that's when a lot of the other cheerleaders started asking me for a ride as well, and she ended up backing away because she didn't want her friends to, I guess, join us. I don't know, it was a pretty awkward situation, but I remember after I walked away after declining all of them, she ends up coming up to me again later on in the school day, and she walks up to me and says, "Bubba, can you like please like let me just be in your car and like you can drive me there?" You know what, sure, I'll drive you, but don't tell anyone else, okay? Okay, bet. I promise you won't regret it. And at this moment when she said that, she ended up grabbing my, well, I can't say because, well, obviously monetization reasons on YouTube, but let's just say she did something really bizarre that, let's just say she grabbed something that wasn't supposed to happen. Tommy, you can put anything on here, an eggplant emoji, anything like that. It makes sense what she was kind of initiating. Going on though, I remember from there, more days go by, and at this point, a lot of people were ready for this party that was gonna happen on that weekend. No joke, I want to say easily like over 150 people were invited to this party. Now, don't get me wrong, it wasn't anything massive or crazy like Project X, you know, having like thousands of people, but 150 people, that's like basically my grad class plus like, and like a bunch of others. I want to say that was easily a large amount of people to barely fit in this house. But I remember when the day of the party happened, I ended up getting ready and I was just, you know, at my place, and I always show up to a party, I want to say an hour to 2 hours later, because you never want to be the first one there. It's super embarrassing, and take my advice for anyone that goes to parties, you always want to show up at least an hour to like, you know, 2 hours later. But I remember I ended up getting dressed, and afterwards I ended up getting a message from the girl that I was supposed to pick up saying, "Hey, like, when are you gonna come get me? The party already started like 20 minutes ago." "Oh, I'm gonna show up like maybe like in like 20, like half an hour. Still gotta get a shower and everything." "Oh, okay, well, like, just let me know." So I ended up, you know, finalizing myself, getting ready. I took that shower that I told her I was gonna take, and I got inside my car and went to her place. When I picked her up, she looked amazing. Like, no joke, she wore like a nice top and she was super attractive. And I looked at her and I'm like, "Hey, so like, you ready to go to this party?" Well, before that, do you want to like, I don't know, maybe have a good time?" I was super confused on what she meant. In reality, I ended up just driving to a viewpoint that was really popular back back in my high school years that a lot of people would drive up to. And me and this girl, we ended up doing the Devil's Tango in the backseat of my car. Yeah. That actually happened. Super insane, but at the same time, it wasn't something I haven't done already. Now, this is where the story gets kind of insane, and I'm gonna have to censor it as much as possible. But basically, I remember after me and her did the Devil's Tango, we ended up going back to the front seats of my car, and we ended up driving on the way there. And on the way there, this girl opens my mirror, and she ends up basically like, you know, getting herself all dolled up again after what just happened. But then that's when I looked at her, and I noticed that there was a stain on her left cherry. Yeah, her left cherry had a stain on it. And this stain, I knew exactly what it was from, but I didn't want to say anything because, well, I don't know, like, I didn't think it was that big of a deal since it was like, you know, just a little stain. Like, it could have been from anything. And when me and this girl, we ended up showing up to this party, I remember me and her walked in together, and a lot of the cheerleaders ended up running up to me saying, oh, like, I thought you weren't driving anyone. But then when they looked over at her, they instantly saw the stain, and they looked at me saying, oh, okay, now I know why you guys didn't show up early. Baba, I didn't know you were able to nut like that. To what? Not like what? No, I meant nut. Nut? What do you mean? I didn't nut. At that moment, everyone started laughing, and rumor went around the party that I ended up nutting on this girl. Well, you guys kind of get the picture. I'm not going to say any more than that, but the rumor ended up going throughout the party. And it was super embarrassing because everyone would recognize it, but no one decided to tell this girl that she had that on her shirt. So I remember as everyone was talking about it, I ended up pulling her aside and pulling her into the bathroom. And that's when I ended up like looking at her saying, yo, do you hear what people are saying? No, what are they saying? Bro, look at your thing. She ends up noticing the stain and she got super embarrassed. Like her face turned hot red. And that's when this girl ends up grabbing toilet paper and wiping it off. But that wasn't even the worst part because the toilet paper and the water, when she was wiping it on her, made the stain bigger and made it more of a water stain than the previous stain. So I remember when she wipes it off, she ends up going out of the bathroom again. And since me and her walked out of the bathroom together, everyone thought that I decided to pull a round 2 on the Devil's Tango. And everyone just started freaking out. At that moment, my buddy that was hosting the party walks up to me and he's like, yo, bro, every girl's saying that you're like tapping girls around the party. Like, what's going on, man? You good? Bro, I don't want to talk about it, is what I said. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this girl ended up becoming a laughing stock. And yeah, I'm not gonna lie, at that moment a lot of people started making fun of me and started making fun of her for basically what happened at that party. I gotta say, it was super embarrassing, but I remember when I drove her home, she even said to me that it wasn't my fault, which, you know, fair enough. And she told me that people would get over it. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it's been like 6 years since that happened and people still talk about it. And it's now to the point where I'm even telling the story about it, which, by the way, if you're watching this video, sorry, it's funny, it was a throwback. And yeah, you know, next time I'll make sure to aim my nuts better. Okay, so on this channel, I'm not gonna lie to you, I talk a lot about the Devil's Tango. And one thing I'll say about it is that I have 100% pullout game. Okay, maybe 99%. But this 1% that I am missing is today's story. So before I get into it, make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And on top of that, join me live on Kick streaming, telling embarrassing stories just like this one. Other than that, let's just jump straight into this crazy story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba and welcome to, well, a really awkward but scary story. Now, as you guys may know, on the channel you guys comment a lot. How did you not, you know, have children? And many of you guys think that I have like 1,000 children just running around in this universe, and I'm gonna say this right now, I do not. And how do I know this for sure? Because every time I have done the Devil's Tango, I have 100% pullout game. But this one time, I remember back when I was in grade 11, things were very different. I remember back when I was in grade 11, I was a workaholic. I mean, I worked way more than I actually should have, knowing I had school and then work on top of that, and then the gym and a whole lot of things that I was just too busy doing, and honestly not enough time to relax. And the only times I would relax is when I got home very late at night, around like 2:30 in the morning, to basically go to sleep and, you know, maybe beat one out and have a good night. But obviously one thing about me is that back when I was in grade 11, I was also a massive player. So the chances of me getting a woman to, like, you know, basically do the Devil's Tango with me was very high. And I remember one night at work, I was swiping through Tinder, just doing my thing, you know, just swiping away, you know, left, right, basically trying to find attractive women for me to do the Devil's Tango. But I remember one time I ended up going on my phone and I saw I got a match from this girl that actually didn't live that far from me. But I remember what I decided to do when I matched with this girl was basically message her and see if she wanted to hang out. And apparently this girl was like a real hotshot. Like, she was apparently really popular and a lot of people knew of her. A lot of more people knew of her than, I guess, me, which is pretty interesting. So I remember remember it got to the point where I ended up DMing her and I'm like, yo, so like, when do you want to hang out? She messaged me back right away, obviously, but she was really like telling me about her life more and telling me that she was a really busy person and that she would have no time for me. And that's when I decided to, you know, put her on the spot and say, what are you doing tonight? Now, like I said earlier, I work a lot. I do a lot of different things. And honestly, like me having any rest is not there. So I remember I ended up asking her, you know, what are you doing tonight? Like, you free? And she replied with, actually, you know what? Tonight I am free. Why? Do you want to hang out tonight? And that's when I decided to message her saying that I would come pick her up after I'm done work at a really late time. Now, this time I was working at a restaurant. So restaurants usually close really late at night. And I ended up basically ending my shift around, I want to say like, I don't know, maybe like 12:30 at night. So at 12:30 at night, I basically ended up, you know, getting in my car, driving all the way to her, picking her up, and then bringing her back all the way to my place. And when things got to my place, I'm not gonna lie to you, it was the most awkward thing ever. Because I remember when we got to my place, me and her, we basically ended up, you know, going to my room and we basically sat there, and I won't lie to you, we didn't really have much to talk about. Because one thing is that me and her were two very different people. Like, she was a graduate and stuff, and you know, she had college going on. I mean, I was still a high school student, just, you know, beating my meat and working all the time. Like, I really did not have much to relate with her, which is not a good thing, I guess, but at the same time, I mean, she found me attractive and I found her attractive, so I guess that's enough to go off of. Anyways, I remember later on that night, me and her, we ended up just sitting down watching a movie. We didn't get cuddly or anything because obviously I didn't want to like jump the gun since, well, I literally don't know this person on my bed at the moment, but you know, it is what it is. So me and her, we start watching a movie. I decided to go downstairs, make some popcorn and bring it back up. And I remember when I came back up with the popcorn and, you know, basically me and her were deciding what movie to watch. She wanted to watch a horror movie. Now, I'm telling you guys this right now, I can't watch horror movies. I don't like horror movies. I don't see the thrill in them. I don't like it at all. At that point, just watch Fast and Furious and just get the to be continued at the end. That's enough of a thrill for me. But obviously for her, she wanted to watch something scary with me, which I'm not gonna lie to you, I could not do. So basically, we ended up putting on the horror movie because obviously I'm not gonna say no and look like a wussy in front of her because this is my first time meeting this hot chick. And I want to obviously maybe see her again if I get the chance. By the way, I did not get the chance to, but going on. And basically from there, I remember me and her, we just ended up watching this movie and it was really boring. We literally sat there like two people just like being absolute strangers, which we were, but you know how awkward it is when like a person's sitting like, actually here, I'll show you an example. Basically, this was her and this was me. We're just sitting on our beds like this. What are we supposed to do? So obviously at that moment, I decided to be the ultimate Rizzler and try to put my arm around her. I tried to put my arm around her. I ended up putting it around her and apparently she liked that, which I mean, I guess it makes sense she would like that because she's at my house and she was interested in me. So I guess it worked out. And one thing led to another. We ended up getting really close together and we ended up doing the Devil's Tango. Now this is where the story gets really intense because at this moment, you guys have to remember, I was really tired. It was like almost 3 in the morning. I barely got any sleep from working, and I'll say this much, life was really getting to me. And I remember that night specifically, I was so tired to the point where I just like wanted to sleep. And I was like, you know what? Like, screw it. Like, let's just do this girl and go to bed. So me and this girl, we did the Devil's Tango. And I remember I decided to basically do what I do best. And I ended up basically, you know, hitting her from behind and yeah, all that stuff happened and you guys get the gist. But I remember midway through me hitting it from the back, my head was like just not feeling good at all. And I remember I ended up like getting distracted, not focusing on my A game. And usually like it got to the point where I was getting so aroused and so confused. And let's just say one thing led to another. I ended up doing the Devil's Cream, I think. Now, the reason I say I think is because I didn't know if I finished, to be honest. At that moment, I didn't know if I actually, you know, did it. You know, like I didn't know. So I remember I ended up like basically, you know, pulling out. I ended up going to the bathroom and I realized that, you know, my eggplant was, well, not as massive as it usually is. And this is where things get really confusing because I remember this girl was like really confused and she ended up coming into the bathroom saying, Bubba, like, did you finish? Yeah, is what I said, really questioning if I actually did. And then that's when she looks at me with her eyes wide open saying, you do realize you weren't wearing protection, right? Yeah, I did. I know, is what I told her right after. She just looks at me really confused on what I just did. And me, I'm just thinking in my head, oh God, this girl thinks I'm trying to breed her. You know, it just got really, really intense. We just started staring at each other. And this is where everything gets really bizarre. Because I look at her and I said, to be honest with you, I don't know if I nutted in you. And she looked looked at me and started basically freaking out. She's like, are you kidding me? Like, I thought you were good at this. Like, you told me you've done like this so many times. Like, are you joking? I did tell her, by the way, that I was the master of the Devil's Tango. But going on. And then from there, basically, me and her got really, really awkward. And we didn't know what to do. And honestly, I looked at her and said, yo, I'm not gonna lie to you. Let's just go to the nearest drugstore and let's just get plan B. We ended up going to the nearest drugstore. We ended up buying plan B. And when we're sitting in my car, we're just looking at each other inside my car. And she looks at me saying, so how do I do this? You never took in plan B? Like what? And then, yeah, basically I had to teach her how to take a plan B, which to be honest, I didn't really know what to do. But when it came out of the package, it was like a little pill. So I guess, you know, it's just not rocket science. Just swallow the pill and pray. And yeah, that is basically it. I remember from there, she ended up wanting to go home. So I drove her home and I ended up driving back. And as I was driving back, I was kind of looking at the package to see like if plan B really works. And apparently plan B doesn't always work. So I remember that night, I ended up not sleeping at all, basically praying with my hands crossed that she would not get pregnant. Okay, so the fact that the title literally says what I'm about to explain literally disgusts me. But honestly, I can't lie. I've done this before, and I think all of us have as well, especially the guys. Girls, I think it's just a natural thing that apparently some guys enjoy that you guys just do for some reason, which I have no idea why. But today's story is honestly something disgusting. So if you have a strong stomach, I advise you guys watch this video. But if you don't, then I mean, you can still watch the video, but I would advise you not to eat. Anyways, like I always say, make sure you do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you guys haven't already. And also, thank you guys so much for all the love and support on these videos. It means a lot when you guys do. But other than that, let's get straight into this insane story. Yo, what is going on, you guys? My name's Bubba, and welcome back to another crazy story. So as the title says, yes, I one time ate my own devil's cream. And the way this ended up happening was honestly super embarrassing. And it was totally by accident. In no way was I just trying to test something for science. I know a lot of guys do this to think, like, you know, it's for science, but in reality, it wasn't. Anyways, I remember back when I was in grade 10, I was, you know, always doing the Devil's Tango. I'd always go out and basically hang out with random girls and basically always just kind of just do it with them. I don't know why, it almost became like a natural routine every month to do a different girl. And to be fair, I do have a body count right now, and I am currently 21, turning 22 in May. That is at 131. So you guys can already tell, yes, I did it a lot during high school. But like I was saying earlier, I remember in my grade 10 year, there was one girl in my class that was really odd. Now, the thing about this girl that many guys told me at least was that this girl was really outgoing. And by outgoing, I mean she would like to try new things, but not only that, she was kind of a hippie. And the reason I'm saying that is because every time we would have a conversation with her, it'd be something along the lines of, oh my goodness, like cutting down the trees would be like so bad, but like also peace on earth. You already know. I don't know. It was really interesting, and every conversation we would have with her had to do with something about the planet or saving it, or how, like, you know, crystals will make you feel better. I don't know. All I remember is that basically the first time I met her, she had blue hair and she was literally telling me that being a Taurus was disgusting. So I don't know, do with that what you will. Going on though, I remember one time though, I ended up walking up to her and I ended up explaining like how, like, you know, even though I'm a Taurus, I'm actually a really good guy. And you know, she had the doubt. So obviously when girls have doubt in something, what do? Well, you challenge it. So I remember I looked at her and went, okay, listen, you maybe not like Tauruses, but I'm gonna be honest here. Like, I'm actually a W Taurus. All right. She ended up looking at me, like kind of questioning me. And she's like, no. Oh, yeah. No. Yeah. Is what I kept explaining to her because she just wouldn't put it through her head. And then she ended up finally adding my Snapchat. When I added her on Snapchat, I will say one thing. Even though she was a hippie with blue hair that probably puts crystals up her, never mind, I can't say that. YouTube will demonetize me. But even though, you know, she was a crystal Andy, I will say this much. She was pretty cool to talk to. Like, other than the conversation about the crystals and stuff, she was actually a pretty decent person. And on top of that, she was also, well, what can I say? She was actually really hot. I'm not gonna lie to you. Aside from the weird things she has going on with her life, she is actually like really awesome to like look at as well. So I remember I decided to kind of like hit her up and basically use my unspoken riz, as you guys may say nowadays, to basically, you know, kind of, you know, make her feel moist. Sorry, I like using the word moist. It sounds so cool. Like, literally say it right now with me. Moist. Sorry, I'm getting distracted. But basically, yeah, so me and her, we ended up basically, you know, rizzing each other up, and one thing led to another. She ended up sending me some pretty spicy photos. Now from there, I thought my mission was complete, but to be honest, I wanted to see how far I could take this, because even though she's a super down-to-earth girl, other than shoving a crystal up herself, maybe I could, you know, slide in with my amazing ultra mega eggplant Andy crystal, if that makes any sense. So I remember I decided to hit her up on Snapchat saying, yo, so like, you want to like maybe like meet up sometime? She ended up questioning if, like, you know, if she should meet up with me. and trying to think like, you know, oh, like, well, if the stars aren't collided, then meeting up with a Taurus could lead to bad luck. I don't know. She made up some sort of excuse that had to do with the stars. But in reality, I ended up just telling her, listen, honestly, I'm just trying to hang out. If you don't want to do it, then don't. That's the one thing many guys don't do nowadays, and I feel like needs to be put out there more. Guys, if you are trying to hang out with a girl, don't seem desperate. Don't play along with the words. Don't be like, oh, like, want to try later? Like, don't do any of that. Literally, just say yes or no. If they don't want it, then be like, I bet, and then just unadd them. Or don't unadd them. Just leave them on delivered. You know, just wait until the proper moment. All girls, or I should say most girls, usually will DM you right away when they realize that, you know, they have the option, but then, you know, you're not being desperate for it or giving the attention she wants for it. So she kind of just ends up like kind of luring back later on when she's really in the mood for it. It'll make more sense if you actually try it. So trust me, boys, just try it out. That's a tip of advice. I should become an educational channel. Sorry, going on though. I remember basically I ended up saying, all right, well, whatever. You don't want to hang out. Fair enough with me. And I ended up basically just ignoring her until I want to say like 3 days later, I ended up going on my Snapchat and I saw she messaged me. She didn't only message me once. She messaged me actually 3 different times, but I decided to ignore her the first 2 times because, you know, who knows what she was going to say. But then afterwards, I remember I decided to open it on the 3rd day of her messaging me back to back, and I ended up saying, yeah, yo, what's going on? She ended up saying how, you know, she wants to test a theory and how, like, you know, the stars feel like she should be aligned, and something about her rubbing a red crystal that she was down to, like, you know, do the devil's tango. So at that point, I'm like, I bet I'm down. Like, let's do it. So me and her, we ended up basically going to like this like place. I don't know what it was, but she ended up picking me up with her car, and we ended up going to like this, I don't want to say it's like a greenhouse, but it kind of was, but like there wasn't like windows all over the place. It was kind of just a place for plants, okay? And then I remember me and her, we ended up basically, actually, funny enough, we ended up doing the devil's tango, and everything was good. Everything was going fine until I remember, how do I put this? She got something on her mouth, the devil's cream, and she decides to try to kiss me. I ended up saying like, oh, like, nah, like, I'm not down to kiss. So I kind of try to like dodge her, you know what I mean? But then one thing she ended up trying to do was that she ended up forcefully kissing me, and then that's when I realized I had the devil's cream that I created in my mouth. I remember right after she kissed me, I ended up literally spitting on the ground because I didn't want that in my mouth. Because if you really think about it, you're eating children, or sorry, you're eating, how do I put this? Moving unbuilt children. I don't know how to explain it. It's just gross to me. And I know like some girls are gonna be like, oh, like, it's a great moisturizer. No, it's gross, okay? Like, why would you eat it? Like, why, dude? But anyways, I remember I basically ended up trying it, and I was just grossed out, and I just didn't want to, like, you know, basically get near the girl afterwards. And I ended up kind of like pulling myself back and saying, yo, like, that's kind of weird, not gonna lie. And she ended up looking at me saying, oh, like, why are you being so weird? Like, come on. No, like, I don't want to taste my own devil's cream. It's what I ended up telling her. For some reason, this girl couldn't put it together. She couldn't put 2 and 2 together that I didn't want to eat my own devil's cream. So I remember she ended up basically like getting all upset with me, and I had to walk home. But as I was walking home, I started to basically realize that eating your own devil's cream to some people might not be disgusting. Like, kind of like eating your boogers. Some people just do it because they think it tastes fine and don't taste anything. It's just the, you know, the feeling of it. And some people actually just like the taste of it, and they're mad weird champ. But one thing I will say is that it's just super weird. And honestly, I think that will be the last time I ever do it, and I hopefully will keep it that way. But anyways, guys, that is basically it for today's story. Make sure you guys do leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And also join me live as I'm live on Kick right now. Anyways, like I always say, fall for more embarrassing stories. Peace out, guys.